This is a special edition of WeatherScope, comprehensive severe weather coverage from the Weather Channel.
Tropical storm Josephine now grazing the Florida Gulf Coast, and we have already had reports of water 4 feet above normal. Evacuations have been carried out, and the worst is yet to come as far as the storm is concerned. Thanks for watching. I'm Mike Seidel here in the Weather Channel Forecast Center, joined by our senior forecaster, meteorologist here, Stu Ostro. Stu, the latest from the Hurricane Center, almost a hurricane, not quite a hurricane, 70-mile-an-hour winds.
That's right, Mike, and it is essentially making landfall at this point. The outer edge of the center of the storm has pushed on shore, and over the next few hours it will continue pushing inland. But again, even though the center of the storm is right about in here, there are those counterclockwise winds around the storm, pushing not only some pretty strong winds onshore along a good part of the west coast of the peninsula of Florida, but also causing those tides to be as much as 4 feet above normal already, which, you know, if you're talking about 4 or 5 feet, that is manageable. It's when you get significantly higher than that into the 8, 10, 12-foot category, like we had with the March 93 storm, that it can become more catastrophic, and we're hoping that it won't quite reach that magnitude.
Let's hope so. Our very own Bill Keneally has been watching the situation from the point of Cross City, Florida. He's inland now, but Bill, what's the latest from that point?
Right here, Mike, it's not too bad. The wind is still picking up, I might add. It is more out of the southwest, and it is gusty. I'm guessing it's probably gusting close to 35 miles per hour here. The rain is all but abated. There's not much in the way of rainfall on the radar nor in the area in the past hour, so that's the good news. But you can see behind me the reflection of the oncoming headlights. There's a huge pond, and a lot of these ponds are all over the roadway in the area, so there's going to be some travel problems traversing around the water. But this is all rainwater here. I'm joined now by Chad Reed. Chad is the Assistant Emergency Management Director here in Dixie County, and Chad was down around the waterfront area in Horseshoe Beach. Chad, what can you tell me?
Right now, we were there about 30 minutes ago, and it's blowing up to gusts about 50 miles an hour. The water is now cresting over the road. It's about 2 foot in the road at some places. We have our director, Arthur Balot, is in Swanee, another coastal town, and it's rising over the road there. And he states that it could possibly be as high as the 1993 storm of the century.
Now, back in 1993, over in Horseshoe Beach, the water came in about 2.5 miles. You don't suspect it to be that bad this time, do you?
At this time, it's real too early to tell for us. It was rising pretty fast while we were there, and we don't want to say that right at this point, but we will hope not that it'll do that, and we're just hoping for the best at this time.
Now, anybody that is trapped down there in the housing, they can knock it out at this time, can they?
It was coming over the final point in the road before it blocked all entrances, so it'll be terrible for them to try to get out at this point.
Okay, Chad Reed, thank you very much. I'm sure it's going to be a very long night here for the emergency management directors. And Mike, again, the rain has abated, but the wind is now picking up even inland. We're about 15 miles from the center over there by the coast. We're about 15 miles to the northeast of where we're talking about, Horseshoe Beach.
Okay, Bill, thanks for the update, and appreciate the update from Chad Reed there from Dixie County, Florida. Bill Keneally live at Cross City, inland, though. He's away certainly from the low-lying areas, and they bring up an interesting point about the storm surge, comparing it to what happened in '93.
Well, there are some similarities to the March 93 so-called superstorm, but there are also some differences. For one thing, the most obvious difference is that this is a tropical system. That was a paralyzing snowstorm from the deep south all the way up through the northeast U.S. A couple of other differences. At this hour that night, that Friday night, March 12th, moving into the 13th, 1993, there was a really horrific squall line of thunderstorms poised and getting ready to sweep across the entire peninsula. Although we have had some tornado reports today, and there still is the threat of isolated tornadoes overnight and some severe wind gusts with the thunderstorms, we aren't looking at anything hopefully quite that bad. Also, we had a pressure similar to this one, 984 millibars, about 4 o'clock that afternoon. However, in that case, it deepened to 971 millibars by 7 a.m. the next morning. We do not see that kind of intensification going on here. And last but not least, and this is why we're hoping the storm surge will not be as great with that one, there were very strong southerly winds pushing the water up into Appalachia Bay at ahead of the storm. Then cold front swept through, the wind shifted into more of a west to east direction, sustained at 50 miles per hour with significantly higher gusts. And so after the water had built up from the southerly winds, it then got swept on shore by the very powerful westerly winds. We don't see anything in the structure of this storm to suggest that, so hopefully the storm surge will stay in the 4, 5, 6 range rather than the 10, 11, 12 foot range as we saw with the March 93 storm.
And for our neighbors to the north, unlike in March of 93, certainly not enough cold air to get what we saw in incredible snowfalls. In fact, some cities setting daily, monthly, and seasonal snowfalls. I believe that was Chattanooga, Tennessee, so no snow in the future up the East Coast. Let's update the viewers on the warnings continuing, at least for now. We'll get another advisory in from the Hurricane Center within the next 45 or 50 minutes. Hurricane warnings, as you can see, for the Big Bend area of Florida. Tropical storm warnings continuing up the East Coast from Cape Canaveral all the way up through Hilton Head, Charleston, Savannah, and up to the Little River Inlet. And we continue with our storm pulling away very quickly. The strongest convection, the higher cloud tops, now moving onshore, and that's where we have the heaviest rain right now around the Tallahassee area back towards the Gulf Coast. And another area, Stu, we've been watching all evening has been that big area of red and orange heading into southwest Florida, south of Tampa, St. Pete, around the Fort Myers, Cape Coral, Bonita Springs area.
That's right, and a couple more points with that. One, there's a tornado warning that's been issued for southwestern Hillsborough County and northwestern Manatee County. Also, with that convection, those deep oranges and reds moving onshore, heavy rain and flooding, as Bill pointed out, has been a problem farther north in northern Florida, and rain already spreading up the southeast coast. So as we go into the daylight hours during the day on tomorrow, we're going to see the effects coming up through the Carolinas during the morning, then eventually to New York City and southern New England tomorrow night with heavy rain and strong gusty winds.
And once again, we can't certainly overemphasize the fact that the storm surge is likely to be one of the big problems, as well as the heavy rain and the developing additional twisters. And that tornado watch continues for most of the state of Florida, for the peninsula, throughout this evening, and it could be extended up the coast tonight and tomorrow as Josephine spins northeast now at 20 miles an hour. So Josephine now making landfall in the Appalachia Bay area of Florida near St. Mark's. We'll keep you updated on that. And once again, the big story is what happens once it moves on the coast, up the coast towards the northeast. For more on that and the rest of the current weather, back to the studio.